Hey, it's me, Riker. Today we're going to have a look at the brand new Awakened hero Belinda Spark of Hope. Now, this is a brand new rotation of Awakened heroes where we begin this round with the Lightbearer faction. Now, this hero wears cloth-based gear, is part of the mage class, and her primary role is to provide a significant amount of burst damage or AoE damage for your teammates. So let's have a look at her skills. Her ultimate skill, Cleansing Flame. Belinda summons the Divine Flame to cleanse the battlefield, damaging all enemies for 230% of her attack rating. She is then possessed by the Divine Flame for 10 seconds, increasing her attack rating by 5% every second up to 50%. If Belinda uses the skill while already possessed, it will extend the possession by 10 seconds and deal extra AoE damage equal to 190% of her attack rating to all enemy heroes. If Cleansing Flame damages an enemy multiple times over 2 seconds, the damage is increased by 15% each time. If Belinda is possessed, the fewer enemies there are, the more damage that this skill will deal, up to 230% of her own attack rating. Her next ability, Blinding Blaze. Belinda scorches an enemy with a brilliant flame, damaging them for 200% of her attack rating and burning them for 6 seconds. When a burned enemy takes damage, they will lose health equal to 100% of Belinda's attack rating over the next 1 second. This effect can trigger 2 times every 1 second. If Belinda is possessed by Divine Flame, Blinding Blaze will deal AoE damage to the target and all nearby enemies. The level 2, when a burned enemy takes damage, they will lose health equal to 120%. The level 3, when a burned enemy takes damage, they will lose 140% of Belinda's own attack rating over the next 1 second. And the level 4, when Blinding Blaze damages an enemy, it will also dispel one of their buffs. If Belinda is possessed by Divine Flame, Blinding Blaze will create 1 additional flames, so this allows her to deal more AoE damage to the enemies that she's currently fighting. Her next ability, Sacred Sigil. Belinda brands an allied hero with a Sacred Sigil for 12 seconds. This is a little circle that appears around the allied hero. A hero with a sigil damages nearby enemies for 190% of Belinda's attack rating every 3 seconds. A portion of the healing the hero receives will be stored by the sigil, up to 30% of Belinda's max health. Whenever Belinda takes damage exceeding 10% of her max health, she'll consume a sigil to negate the damage and receive the healing stored in the sigil. When Belinda is possessed by Divine Flame, she will automatically receive a sacred sigil and will not need to cast this skill to use it. Whenever there is an active sigil, whenever Belinda deals divine damage, she'll recover health equal to 50% of her damage. Each active sigil increases Belinda's crit rating by 5 and damage amplification by 5 points. Now, usually on the battlefield, there are a maximum of 2 of these sacred sigils or little buff areas around heroes. However, the more she uses her ultimate skill, the more it'll spread to her allies, buff them, and in doing so, it'll buff her as well. Her next ability, Champion of the Flame, which is a passive. Belinda deals 50% divine damage and 50% flame damage. Divine damage cannot crit, but ignores enemy defense and resist. Flame damage always crits, and each point of Belinda's crit rating increases the damage dealt by 0.4%. While Belinda is possessed by Divine Flame, both her and flame damage will benefit from the other damage types effects. Level 2. Flame damage increases Belinda's attack rating by 30%. And the level 3, after Belinda has been possessed by Divine Flame for a total of 12 seconds, she'll no longer use her normal attacks, and the duration of her possession will be extended by 40%. So this is a pretty significant buff. So if you have any allied hero who can give it an additional crit on top of her existing crit rating, this will significantly buff the amount of damage she deals in battle. So let's have a look at her realm-wide buff. The Blaze of Glory. All attribute buffs and energy recovery Belinda receives from her allies are increased by 10%. When an ally helps Belinda recover energy, she'll grant them a Blaze of Glory effect for 8 seconds. Whenever an ally with this effect uses an active skill, it will trigger Cleansing Flame, damaging the target and nearby enemies for 190% of Belinda's attack rating. Every 4 times Blaze of Glory is used, Belinda will become possessed by the Divine Flame, or have her current possession extended by 5 seconds. And the divine damage she deals will be permanently increased by 2%. So as we can see that there is a lot of permanent buffs that she gains, such as the crit rating, permanent damage increase, and she's constantly buffed by her allies. So this buff over here, all attribute and energy recovery, is significant for her, especially if the allied hero provides her attack, crit, or any other stat to boost her up and to deal massive amounts of damage to the enemies. So let's have a look at how she does in battle. So as we can see from her toolkit, that she's not necessarily a frontline hero. So we would like to place her in the backline where she is safe and where she can build up her energy and use her ultimate ability. So as we can see here, I'm going to compare her to another top tier damage dealer, being a Scarlet over here. So usually Scarlet does multiple instances of damage to the enemy. However, the Awakened Belinda does one massive amount of damage in a single hit when she's able to use her ultimate skill. So this is her animation over here. As we can see, she casts little shards into the sky and one-shots all the enemies with her ultimate. So let's have a look at the battle statistics. So as we can see, she did a pretty significant amount of damage. However, there were no supports in this team in order to buff her up and to allow her to do even more damage than her allied heroes. So let's have a look at how she does at much higher level deficit. So I've placed Awakened Belinda in an Irons-based team. Now this team revolves around Lightbearer, buffing her allies, being dimensional-based teammates, with their attack and defense ratings going up. Now, both Awakened Belinda and Irons deal most of their damage through their ultimate skill. Now, as soon as the battle begins, Awakened Belinda will buff on our allies, being Lightbearer, and we can see that this is a little ring around her where this buffs up their stats and allows them to deal more damage. Now, both of them have full energy, Irons and Awakened Belinda, and we can see once again the animations from Awakened Belinda. There we go. Now Irons will ult as well, and both of them deal a significant amount of damage with their ultimate skill. Now this is a screen-wide ability and will damage all enemy heroes. Now we can see over here that there are little rings around Awakened Belinda and her teammates, and we can also see the sacred sigils around both Merlin, Arthur, and Irons. These sacred sigils is that healing effect that Awakened Belinda will receive if she receives any damage that exceeds more than 10% of her max health. Now, this is a stall-based team until one of the heroes, being Irons or Awakened Belinda, uses their ultimate. Now I'm going to compare it to another hero, being Odin over here. Now, Odin is more of a single target hero compared to Awakened Belinda. However, this team over here has a similar feature where it has extremely sturdy frontline heroes, being Auna and Grazul, and essentially they will be able to stall long enough for heroes such as Odin and Awakened Belinda to use their ultimates and take control of the battlefield. Now, even though Odin is a single target hero, he still is able to keep up with Awakened Belinda. However, because Awakened Belinda does screen-wide massive amounts of AoE damage, this allows it to exceed the damage potential of most other heroes in the game. So what is the minimum investment that I would recommend investing into her? Now, like other Awakened heroes, I would recommend getting her 30 signature item, 9 furniture, and 60 engravings. This will give her enough stats and give her additional abilities when you have those certain investments unlocked, and allow her to compete with other extremely powerful damage dealers such as Scarlet, Awakened Solus, and various other heroes in the game.